Hello and welcome to COP 4708. In this session, I will go over some of the implementation that I did in Chapter 7 with Oracle 10G Express Edition and implement that in the 11th edition. So you will have both editions implementation. And again, as we said before in the session for 11G Express Edition, you can just click on the SQL workshop and click on SQL commands, or you can click on the SQL workshop here and it will take you to the same option. Once you click on the SQL command, you can create the code or copy paste the code. And what I'm going to do, I will copy paste the code that I have in the PowerPoint, and again I'm doing that just to save time and show you that we can write a code to create a table. And this code is to create the table artist, which is one of the examples in the book, and that will show you the different columns that's involved in this table and the type of these tables and the constraint of not null or null. Once I have that, I can click on run and it will tell me that the table has been created. In the Express edition, in the 10th edition, actually you have to save it first then run. In this one, you can run it right away and the table will be created. I can do the same with creating the work table. To make sure that I did create the table, I can just go Object Browser and browse, and I have the artist table here. I click on the artist table and then I have it. So now I have the artist table being created. And again, we can go to workshop to SQL command and get the code for the table. For the work table, and then I'm going to create a table called work with these columns and these types and these constraints. Then I'll click run and I have the work table being created. Now notice that I have the artist ID as a foreign key in this table. So the artist ID being used as a foreign key, and I'm connecting now both tables together. I can also add constraint to the artist table as we did in Chapter 7. And that will add for me a constraint that will check for me the nationality to be within certain values, and I added the certain values. Those are the values or the nationalities that's allowed to be within or from. If it's not one of them, then it will give me error message. So I'm adding that check constraint on the artist table to make sure that I'm within certain limit or certain domain of nationalities. Then I will run, and as you can see here, the table being altered, and I have already the constraint being added. We can also create the customer table, so I'm adding the customer table, and again in this case I will copy and paste the code just to make it easy for us time-wise. So we are going to get the code for the create table customer, copy paste it here, and then click on the run button, and the table will be created. And again, for the transaction table, and we will copy paste the transaction table, then run the code, and the table being created. Just to make sure that we created all tables, we can go to the work shop and browse for objects, and as you can see here, we have artist, we have customer, we have transaction, and we have work. So we have these four entities that is related to our project. Let's go back and to the SQL command, and let's clear this one, and I will insert into the artist table the values of the related columns or fields. In our run, and it will actually check for me if I have the valid fields. And for the name, we don't have first name, last name. Actually, we have only a name, so I can either put one name or just the last name. So we can check on the whole name. What will be the whole name? And that should do it. So I inserted row, but again for the name I use first name last name as one piece, so it's one piece here. Otherwise, if I identify it as first name last name, I could do it the other way. That's why I had more fields than what I have, what exactly exists in the table, and I adjusted that to match the fields that's in the table. And again, I can insert a second row with the ID number 2, then run. I will browse artist, and I can look at the data, and I have the two IDs being inserted. So now we have the two values here in this table, and the table is the artist table that has the column name, nationality, birth date, and deceased date. And again, we can actually alter the table to change the values as needed. One of the things that we should notice here, that the name here under artist we have name, and under customer we have name, and we did not specify if this is the artist name and that one was the customer name, which might get us confused when we are pulling the data or we are doing a query. So actually we can alter that table and change the name. Either we can change it through doing the code, or we can change it here. Since I'm browsing here the table, I have the data, I have also other actions that I can do. One of them is renaming the column. So I can check on the column name and change that to artist name, and click next and click finish, and now it's called art name. Art name means artist name, so that will make it different from the customer name. Actually, I can alter that table too and change it. So I can go to customer and go to name, in this case, rename column, the name, and make it customer name. Then next, finish, and I have customer name. So whether using the code or using the database management system interface, I could use the name of the column or change the name as needed. Something else that we can do, we can update the information that we have in the table, especially if we discover that the nationality is different. So I can go to the code and write a code to alter or update the artist table with the new nationality for artist ID number 1, and I will run, and then it will say for me that row 1 has been updated. To check on that, I can go to the browser and go to the artist and check on the data, and as you can see here that the first record or artist ID number 1 has been updated to Canadian. Now notice that I did check constraint to make sure that I'm not using any of the nationalities that's not in the domain. So for example, if I used let's say just X, XY, ZZ as the nationality for number 2, I want to change the nationality to this value for record number 2. Now remember that I have a check constraint that will check for me if I have this within my domain. So let's see what's going to happen. In this case, it should compare and say, okay, you don't have this value within the domain of nationalities, and give you an error message. And if you run it, it's not in the nationalities, it's not in the values. So this was violated. That's why it didn't work. So in this case, we are making sure that the constraint that we added with the list of nationalities is working correctly. This was a short session to show you that 11G works the same as 10G. With the same code, we can just implement the code and it will give you the same results. Try to insert more rows and work on 11G if you are interested. Otherwise, you can work with 10G and that will be fine with me. That will be all for this session. Thank you and have a great day.